Monday, and then from there it kicks off with every other activities from the mainland focus, trends in the papers, and of course today. My name is Victor Achibong, and yes, I'm pretty sure you're wondering where is Okoyemi? He's going to be joining us pretty soon because we don't get to do this alone. We talk about a lot of things. Okoyemi Akinyode will be joining me, and of course, Said Fuad is already in the studio. Now, just talking about Okoyemi Akinyode, he just walked into the studio, and the reason being that the circular went round everywhere when the last month official, had to warn, inform Lagosians about a fully Coming from Tᴡɪᴛᴛᴏ, there's something he actually said which caught my fancy. And I think we're going to listen to that. Yes, we're going to listen to that. And we're also going to take it up from there because there are a lot of angles to discuss as regards this, the revamped Port Harcourt refinery. Some people say it is old refinery. And truly, it is old refinery. And so far, from what we've gathered, it is already giving over or up to 70% of its capacity in terms of producing or refining crude oil for Nigerians to consume. And also, going into the conversation, taking us further, there is the story or the topic that is quite interesting. A lot of Nigerians have been asking so much questions as regards the economic reforms of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and one man who has seen it all. In fact, he has been talking even before many Nigerians ever thought of coming into this country, and he is still talking. I'm talking about Dr. Doyin Okupe. He says the Tinubu economic reform is working. At some point, he has said we should give the Tinubu administration 2 years for these reforms to take full effect. But there was something significant he said as regards the naira as well as the cost of fuel. There's a soundbite to that effect, and we're also going to listen to that as well. If time permits us, because we know the table for those two conversations are quite huge, we're going to talk about the probe after tenure. And this is coming from Lagos State before we dive into the last conversation, coming from Bianca Ojukwu saying that Tinubu will release the IPOB leader. Well, those are some of the conversation we have on the table, and of course, we are going to look at all of this. And quickly, without wasting much of our time, side forward, there is a story that seems to be creating so much jubilation in the air. Finally, after 7 attempts, after 7 failed attempts, the Port Harcourt refinery is working once again. Now, there is the fear from some quarters that they are not even sure if they are blending something or if this is the real thing. But from the feelers we've been getting coming from the MD CEO or the chairman executive officer of NNPCL, Mele Kyari, as well as the NMDPRA chairman in the person of Ahmad Farouk. I mean, the information is getting interesting all of a sudden that the Port Harcourt refinery is once again up and running. Side forward.
Well, again, at least out of the so many, do we call it bad news, negative news that we have had to deal with, in the last 18 months of this administration. I think this is at least one news that can give us some glimmer of hope, something that we can begin to look at and say, okay, maybe we're getting somewhere. Like I said earlier in the morning, I think we should first commend all Nigerians who wake up every day, whether on social media, on radio, on TV, and continue to demand that the government fix our refineries. In fact, some of them just say, look, just fix the refineries. The implication of fixing the refineries, I'm sure some of them don't even know, but they just feel that, look, it's just wrong that as an oil-producing nation, we don't have functional refineries. They feel that it's wrong that out of the OPEC nations of the world, Nigeria is still the only country that imports refined petroleum products. So I think on that basis, you have Nigerians who just feel it's an abnormality for you to have a God-given resource, and then you can't, build what you would have to use to, refine that particular product. You've built, but you've run it aground. To revive it has become a problem. Several years of failed promises. So I think those Nigerians should be commended, for waking up almost on a daily basis to say that, look, it does not just make any sense for us to be an oil-producing nation and fail to have functional refineries. So, big commendation to those set of Nigerians who continue to make that call. I think we also have to commend the administration, and that has to go back to President Muhammadu Buhari, who I think in 2019, said that, look, we have to stop this idea of importing petroleum products into the country. We have 4 refineries, let's get them fixed. And then started that commitment, that effort to reviving and revamping those refineries. I think in 2021, the last of the chunk of monies to fix the refinery was eventually approved, which was $1.5 billion. We've had a lot of back and forth. At least in the media, we've been asking questions. Civil society organizations have been asking questions. Lawyers have been asking questions. When would these refineries work? We've practically held, the authorities to accounting for why these refineries are not working, despite the huge
amount of money pumped into it.
So, yes, eventually we moved from mechanical completion, which was about a year ago, to now saying that, look, the refinery now has the capacity to refine crude oil. And so we can now begin to look at it producing some refined petroleum product, I think diesel, jet, A1. There's a lot of technical explanation. And what I've tried to do since this conversation started is to ask experts in the industry, not just people who report the industry, people who know how you start to drill crude oil from the ground or from the sea or
how
from
it
wherever,
operates in general,
and then you take it to the refinery, and then you start the entire process till you get the products you're looking for. And what I've gotten so far, which we're still going to continue to probe further, is that blending in itself is not actually bad. Your ability to blend to get the desired products of the desired quality is the issue here, if you understand what I'm saying. Because I remember that I think a week ago I was with Adeola Yusuf, and there was this news that Dangote Refinery reported that, look, there's a plant across his facility that is a blending plant.
Okay.
And that they were looking for his own product to blend with their own inferior product to now do, so I think that we'll still have to probe. And I think I've made a promise that maybe by Sunday, apart from Adeola Yusuf, I also look at an industry expert that can come and really break down the process of taking crude into a refinery and then getting products out. What exactly is a blending plant? What is a refinery? Can a refinery blend, or a blending plant can be said is a refinery? So we need to clear all of those misconceptions. But I think they are too technical for us to just sit down here and begin to say, oh, blending, it's anything that is unusual in the industry. So on that basis, I think I would avoid commenting too much on something that is too technical for us to begin to...
With regards to blending.
Yeah, the story of blending, the fact that, look, the authorities are saying for now, when it comes to PMS, they will have to do some form of blending because, again, there are still parts of the refinery that needs fixing for us to be able to have what is called direct production of PMS and all of that, So the fact is that, look, at least the thing can now produce something.
Which is what Nigerians want.
And
let our refineries work.
Let it, I made an analogy this morning that somebody has been in the ICU on life support, morbid. It's not even shaking. This guy does pack, and you have been praying that, look, anything feels
just lift a finger.
Just lift a finger.
You
get to a point, you look at the person, just wink or just shake leg. And eventually the refinery that we are taught will never ever come to life. I told you.
I mean, with the number of failed attempts.
I remember
and
that even
made.
Adeola Yusuf, which was the same question I'm going to ask him. I told us that, look, there was a time he was in Texas at the OTC conference, and he sat down with the original asset manufacturers of that refinery to say that, look, can that refinery ever work?
And they said no.
And they said no, because the refinery in itself has maintenance schedule that we fail to meet, and that, look, is as good as scrap. And if you look at what the NPCL has also announced as to how we got to the point where it can now refine something, they practically had to change a lot of things. In fact, the reality is that it was as if we built a new refinery. Because it was not just about, because most of those things could not be fixed really, so it was like changing parts.
True.
It's just like when you have a car and the body is the only thing that was left. You change the engine, you change this, change that. You get to a point almost as you bought a new car.
Aside
for the body.
We are going to take a listen to what Tᴏɪᴛᴛᴇ
I'm coming
said.
to Tᴏɪᴛᴛᴀ.
Okay.
But again, for Port Harcourt Refinery, we are still talking about the old Port Harcourt Refinery,
The old one.
which is a 60,000 barrels per day capacity refinery. The bigger one is the 150,000 barrels per
That
day.
is in LMA.
Which is in LMA. That one is there. We never even near that
Well,
one.
no date has been given yet.
No, forget about it. We never. But at least to begin to assure Nigerians that there's a commitment to fixing our refineries. Whether we'll do it or not is another thing. But at least, I've also been someone who has always said, look, why is it that the president don't even mention the refineries at all? So it's a bit refreshing for me to see that at least something has started to happen, and that we now even have the president saying that, look, go ahead and fix other refineries. We are not going to suddenly abandon our call that those refineries have to be revamped and revived. But I'm saying that, look, let us also allow the government celebrate this little win, while we still continue to hold them to account on doing the right thing when it comes to fixing our refinery. And you can see that I didn't start with congratulating the government or commending them. I started with commending Nigerians who have been very resolute as to calling on the government to do the right thing to fix our refinery, so that as an oil producing nation, we can also have the bragging right of being of having the capacity to refine what we need locally, and then maybe we can take it to the point where we also begin to export petroleum products. So
side forward,
yes.
easy.
Because
that next level we are going to, that potential level,
maybe
easy. Now,
okay,
Victor.
Yes,
I'm a bit worried, and this is why. When you've been starved of quality, you begin to celebrate mediocrity. When you be starved of genuine representation, whatever low-hanging fruit that is thrown at you, you jump at it.
whatever is available.
Nigeria is a population of an approximate about 230 million people. The refinery that is not even operating at 100% can only refine 60,000 barrels. 60,000 barrels does not even cover what Lagos consumes daily. So I understand everybody's point of conversation. Oh, let's even celebrate this little win. But that is the only reason why the government keeps making it look like whatever we give you, you will take. The APC administration, their supporters are going everywhere celebrating this refinery. They said two things that the president has achieved in a few months: that security challenges are reduced and the Port Harcourt refinery is up. Victor, we have combined, all our refineries combined, we have a capacity of about
450.
No.
455,000.
455,000 barrels per day.
Those four.
Not even up to what the Dangote refinery.
No, don't go
Okay.
there. But it's baby steps. But should we continue to celebrate baby steps? That's what I'm saying. I understand how this government works. Came up.
Is going to be part of it
under the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Because we've been so starved. We're hungry for good news. So whatever rumor flies out, for low-hanging fruit from these politicians, Victor, it should worry you. It should worry me. It should worry Side Forward.
Side Forward. There is this angle of let's politicize this issue. Let's make it look like it was one of the reasons it was voted into power, to get the refineries working. And for 8 years that it was. And the way these old stories, the statistics are flying and people are saying and praising.
Well,
for those who are happy that, yes, this is working, this is finally working, is it politics for them? Or is this what Nigerians should have got a long time ago? And we should focus more on this, work more on this to ensure that everything that every Nigerian is asking for begins to fly.
Well, I've made my opinion known, all of them together. What I'm saying here is that on this Port Harcourt refinery, yes, baby steps, low-hanging fruit for people who want to hang on to it and begin to celebrate. It's within their rights to celebrate it. If they over-celebrate, that's their problem. What I'm saying is that, look, these are little wins when working, and you can't blame them.
Exactly,
you can't blame them. You can't blame them.
People have been,
have been, we've seen things happen in this country.
People have been starved. Nigerians have been starved of truth.
People have been misinformed. People have been disinformed to the point where there's nothing the government says. And
nobody has been persecuted.
And you wouldn't also blame Nigerians who were promised reduction in the price of petrol during the campaign, and who only woke up to the reality that, look, the price will go ×3 of what they were buying, and the person that promised them to reduce the price is now telling them there's no other way. If there was any other way, would have done it. So for people who had a promise, who got a promise of reduction in price of a product to wake up to the reality of the price going 3 times 4, and the person that promised them that thing is telling
Right.
they will celebrate or check and recheck again. For those that want to celebrate, quickly celebrate. For those that are going to be apprehensive and they will check and recheck again. So when you say good morning, they go out again and check if it's not night. So I'm not going to blame anybody for whatever position they hold on this particular Port Harcourt refinery. For those who are supporters of government, who want to go to town, roll out the drums and celebrate it, it's within their right. For those who say no, it's nothing to celebrate because this falls short of all their promises. They made several promises to fix refineries, to build new ones. They've not done it, so you are also within your right. And for those who, despite the media optics, the media reportage and all of that, are still saying that, look, they don't believe that thing is working, you can also blame them. Because we were in this country when somebody brought in a plane, only for us to know that it was an hired plane, and they did water salute for an old plane. So I'm not blaming. Yes, because if you do a water salute, you talk about a first flight of a brand new plane, but if they can do water salute for an hired flight in this same country, and I don't think that, the person may be standing trial, but it may not amount to anything, So you wouldn't blame anybody who feels like, look, let's be sure that, look, I've seen reports where people are saying that, look, they probably even transported refined products into that place
Just
to dispense, just to create the the feeling, the perception
that is
dispensing. I'm telling you, I'm actually telling you. But what I want to assure Nigerians is that, look, as a member of the fourth estate of the realm, is just majorly for information management or propaganda, or the refinery really started working a new reality that, look, any little thing that comes, let's just hope that better days are coming. Because look, it's been years of, if you know where we are coming from, you understand why I say that, look, let's even allow a celebration of this little win, even though there's still a lot that needs to was going to come up, and then suddenly it collapses again. This is not the first time. We've had situations where they talked about reviving the refineries. It looked as if it was going to work.
They've shown us fire. They've shown us
flaring.
flaring blaze.
They said it was 70% mechanically completed. Now it is.
So 1 year and 2 months after,
we have now.
Supply.
But what we have now is that the refinery is also working at 70% capacity. They are hoping to sustain whatever they have now, to take it to 100%,
okay, and
then we can now begin to take it from there. The question is this: Mɪᴅ-ᴜᴇᴇ was saying it in one of the reports I read, that look, he a report that the president has also instructed him to go ahead and fix other refineries. We would also begin to hold the government to account on that. We'll also continue to ask questions as to when that will be done. It took us years to get this little win. Maybe it could be shorter. If we will get something interesting, which I think we also have to pay attention to, almost like what you see in some form of free market economy, where competitors begin to now offer some form of discounts and largesse. He's saying that, look, if you are able to buy 2 million liters of fuel, you get it at now 17 naira per liter.
That's market strategy.
Whatever strategy it is. Although I'll try and reach out some of our guys in Dᴏᴇ, in the Dᴏᴇ group, some of the PR people, and say, what's the idea behind this? I've seen it on newspapers where it's been said that, and I think that advert is majorly for marketers. I would assume it's not for you and I, because how do I do 2 million liters? So I think it's actually trying to use that to attract some marketers. But this is the deal for me, Victor. And this is the argument. This argument of, crude is sold at international market price. And so because of that, we cannot continue to talk about a reduction in the price of petroleum products. For me, it's faulty. For me, it is wrong. We understand the basics. Currently, we have agreement with the IOCs. 40% goes to them. We still retain 60% of crude production daily. There was a reason for building those 4 refineries. The reason is for a day like this, for days like this, when the price of crude is going to balloon through the roof internationally. So when you have your own refinery, I keep saying it, we are an oil-producing what? Nation. And so you ask yourself, as an oil, the idea again is that, look, whatever crude we have produced, the 40% that goes to the IOC, 60% will, whether you like it or not, if you refine only 1 million, that's your problem. The idea is that, look, that 445,000 barrels pushing it out. Now that, and that's why it's very important for us to talk about fixing our refineries and having more local refineries to refine whatever we retain back home. Nothing's more affordable. I was in an argument with some people who now started to show me some prices of some oil producing nations, and I said, look, the value of their own currency and your own currency is the same thing. You are showing me a naira value, but you for the same as your own local currency because you are now pricing in naira for me. That's what I'm saying. So if, for example, the US sells at maybe $1 and some,
I mean, it's even $3
now
for ordinary. Premium is $4
now
and some cents.
you cannot automatically use that and times it in naira and give me the naira value.
6,000
So
naira per
because they earn in dollars, new reasons to call for that because of their own earning, their capacity to earn and purchase that product. That's number one. So I've seen somebody earning power locally
in Nigeria, yeah.
For you to now begin to compare, so that what people buy in Saudi Arabia, we must buy because we earn the same thing, and the currency is the same value. So those are, we can rework the subsidy regime, the lives of their people better, especially the poorest and vulnerable people. Primary and secondary school in the US that is free, but when it comes to universities, if you go check the US universities, the fundings, the scholarships, that is available for you. You have private citizens giving all manner of funding, giving all manner of opportunities. There are scholarships, the one the school gives to you, the external ones, and all of that. So you have opportunities to even fund your education for free if you have the capacity to go into. And we've also seen students borrow money to go to university. Before the president cancels all the debt. Say, you don't have to pay, or somebody just comes on the day of convocation and say, all of you, I'm paying for you. Do we have that here in Nigeria? I tell them, if you go into these societies, you understand that public transportation is heavily subsidized. By what you are paying, you will know, you yourself will know that this public transport.
When you go on a train
for just
40 minutes for just
and then
£3,
or you have a card that you just keep tapping in. It's for the whole day you spend nothing. Almost, you also go into their facilities, their health facilities. So far, you have health insurance.
You get treated.
You get almost for nothing really. All these things we are saying are all forms of subsidy. What about food? Tell you that, look, if you see the chicken in my freezer, and they'll tell you in those societies, unless you don't want to eat, or left, you cannot eat, you will know that these things they are
somewhere
buying.
is paying for it. For me to be getting
this
it cheap.
You get chicken, you
So
get
the
this,
benefits you get.
So and you live a decent life. You might not be a millionaire or a billionaire, but you have children to send your children to school, won't be a problem.
Education is covered.
So they make it qualitative and affordable for their own people. Those that can make all the billions in the world, yes, will live in the eyebrow areas, build mansions and all of that. But you in that small county apartment, you also get the benefit of, what your society is giving to you. So they create that form of egalitarian society by ensuring that they bridge the gap between where are the what you call the safe come up and begin to say there's no way. What do you mean? Whereas why we are going further down the poverty line, check your leaders and tell me that their lifestyle is reflective of the so-called current economic situation they are selling to us. Tell me if the life of the president, the first lady, the people he has appointed, the governors. I was looking at Governor Adeleke of Osun State recently, and I looked at the number of cars in his convoy. Okay, so you know that, look, you guys,
and that state had not generated this.
Half of it is just motion without movement too. Just running around doing nothing really. When I say in reality, by the time you put some value on the effort, you know that it's a complete waste of time. Small vehicles.
Some of those vehicles have only the drivers in them,
and they are running.
A certain past governor of
these and expenses, the lavish spending, the wastages, and they tell you that we are poor. There's no other way, but the poor continue to suffer.
Reforms, because we know definitely that if this tax reform bill that Mr. President has passed to the Senate will see the light of day, we will begin to see certain things translate in such a way that the poor could have some bit of salvation remedy. But anyways, because of time, I actually wanted us to have take a listen to Tᴏɪᴛᴛᴇʀ. Tᴏɪᴛᴛᴇʀ, by the way, was a governorship aspirant under APC in the last election in Rivers State, and is also an oil mogul. if you put it that way, very, very well, the of components side forward. That's most of these components, which is, if we don't have machinery to refurbish and maintain your refinery, we're falling back into something that was, because now we're seeing that the Port Harcourt refinery is running. Hope you're not going to get disappointed again. Anyway, you're listening aside forward, and we are looking at all of this conversation. Now, for the next few minutes, you're going to be listening, of course, to so many Nigerians. Is now the sweetest thing happening to us as a people. We'll be right back. Don't go nowhere.
That made sure that importation cannot come in. So Nigeria's price that we are selling today, the PMS that we are selling today, as a result of that, most people are not bothered to import. So Nigeria is already benefiting from that. That's number one. Number two, the volume of consumption in Nigeria has gone down a lot. So as a result of that, the pressure that you used to have on foreign exchange has gone down, because now you're not importing as much. What you are selling is in Naira. The Naira is what's used to buy crude. So we're already seeing the impact of that. As high as it is, we've seen a balance. So there's been a rebalance of foreign exchange and Naira. So there are certain things that you have to deal with. First of all, there are many components that you are still bringing in. All the things that were refurbished in the refinery were refurbished by products, by machinery that was brought into the country. So we still have a huge foreign exchange component that we have to deal with refineries. Down the line, as we move, you to begin to see all of those differentials. As long as we're still importing turbines, importing bolts, importing nuts, screws, and all of that, you have an issue. So what you are first seeing is the differential that comes from the selling and buying of crude in Naira. That's what you're first seeing. And there's manufacturing of critical components, so you don't have to import those things. That's down the line.
Here is easy. To bring normalcy and redecorate is more difficult.
The general elections in 2023 have created conversations and consequences that will live with us for years to come. From the executive to the judiciary, legislature, media, and the people, organized labor, and civil society organizations, issues that will continue to shape the future of our country needs continuous probing and interrogation.
I see the greater objective for the party, and let me tell you, I've told the PDP in some locations that, gentlemen, be careful. Better men have founded parties that have gone into oblivion. Where's the party of Awolowo? Where's the party of Azikwe? Where's PRP of Rimi? Political parties must be nurtured, they must be reinvented, they must be true to their own
Join Akinyode and Said Fuad on Midweek Politics every Wednesday, 1 to 3 p.m. on Mainland 98.3 FM for thought-provoking conversations, voices from the top, engaging interviews, in-depth analysis on all matters around politics, policies, and governance. Midweek Politics on Mainland 98.3 FM, bringing the right perspectives to everything politics.
All right, you're welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is still Midweek Politics on Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. Before we went on break, we're talking about the Port Harcourt refinery coal, reacting to the Port Harcourt refinery. And yes, he said something very significant, what we have in this part of the country. A lot of persons have been saying so much. And of course, we know that when Nigerians keep asking questions, they're not just asking questions for the sake of asking the question. It's because they've seen things, they've heard things, they've experienced things of having industries in your country that can produce what you would have bought elsewhere, which of course is going to help your foreign exchange and give you a lot of money. But when you don't have that, then you begin to look outside. Now, as we know, the Port Harcourt refinery is back. But the truth of the matter is that most of the tools and equipment, but as we know, the parts that were used to bring about this revival, the revamping of this old that I was just refurbished.
No. Again, I look at Mr. Tonyeko, well, with his experience in the oil sector, would assume that he knows what he's saying. But to begin to fabricate local parts, really.
But
again, we don't
shouldn't
even
that
have
give the government the rush, if I use that word, the rush to work on their Jakarta Steel Company. So that begin to have all of these things.
You have now gone, that one is another conversation entirely. Because it's not just about you having the ability to produce steel. You also have to have the technical know-how, the understanding of how to design these things, to model them, to fit into what you want to use them for. And remember that most people that build these things also ensure that it's not so easy for you to steal that technology. They are not stupid. They always want you to come back to them. You want to repair, you have to come back. You want to maintain, you have to come back. And that's why, to begin to talk about the capacity to begin to do these things is also not a short-term solution. It's something that has to be done over a long period of time. I remember that it was the late of China, Taiwan, and the rest did. Taiwan and the rest did. You know, there was a time Nigerians would be importing things from China, Taiwan, and some other country, Indonesia, and we're laughing at them. Say, inferior, and
that was in the 80s and early 90s.
Then they were trying to steal technology. But today, all the products that we use, that we now see as standard, where do they come from? Those countries.
Obviously.
Because we can no longer afford the ones of Americans and Europeans. So we now are used to even buying and using what those countries give to us. So the idea of laughing at them and saying it's inferior, they've been able to perfect it. I was telling somebody, look at the furniture, Italian furniture. So if you see any shops today selling furniture, I say Italian, is Italian what? Imitated.
And repackaged.
The Chinese guys are the ones there. But the fact is that, look, yes, the Chinese guys are the ones doing it, but they're going to give you the same quality and standard like the so-called Italian furniture. In electronics.
Everything.
And it will even be more affordable for you. So this idea of suddenly thinking that we can begin to build parts, refinery, before we even begin to talk about parts, even if we're going to be importing parts, but the lackadaisical attitude, the corruption, where we're coming from. And that's why people are already suggesting that, look, can we look at the concession arrangement? Maybe they should just concession it. When you see you run.
Think twice. So
I think we've got to the point where we have to begin to look at other options on these refineries. I've had people who have said that, look, it's of a better value if you revamp them before you now sell it. It's just like a car. At least the person that wants to buy, you start it, the thing work, you move small. It has a better value than local.
When
the thing don't move.
Ignition is not working
and all that. So because at the end of the day, my fear. So we have to. So it's a comprehensive thing. It's an holistic approach. How do we ensure that, look, the 60,000 barrels capacity refinery that is now working at 70% capacity, how do you sustain it? How do you take it to 100%? And then how do we ensure that we don't run it aground again? Do we want to concession it? I want to sell it or privatize it. Is it going to be like a kind of PPP thing where we take a percentage, you keep it, where they take some other percentage? Now, in doing that, whether it's through concessioning, privatization, or a partnership kind of arrangement, how do we ensure again that there's no vested interest? Like the thing we saw in the power sector, where people who had no plan on how to run the thing, hijack the whole thing because of greed. So the conversation should be forward thinking, while we now begin to look at how to build our technological capacity to be able to produce things ourselves. It's not just about the refinery. There's a whole lot of things that ordinarily we should be able to build.
Very true.
That we have not been able to do.
Very true. All right, Okoyemi, take us through the second story. In case you're just joining us, we're also streaming live on Facebook. Don't worry. When the time comes, we're going to open the phone line for you to be a part of the conversation. Don't forget, it's midweek politics, and of course, we do this every Wednesday from 1 to 3 p.m. In the next few minutes, we're going to look at some other stories, of which Okoyemi is going to be taking us through the second story, which is another interesting one again.
Well, the bulk of what we've said, should celebrate this little win, and I totally understand. Just like I said initially, when you be staff of greatness, every flash of brilliance becomes a big deal, and that's exactly where we are as a nation, which I find absolutely ridiculous. But then, the former OB campaign organization, Chief Dr. Doyin Okupe had